May I, Monsieur, offer my services without running the risk of intruding? I fear you may not be able to make yourself understood by the worthy ape, the bartender, who presides over the fate of this establishment, the bar. In fact, he speaks nothing but Dutch. We're in Amsterdam, so it makes sense that the bartender would speak nothing but Dutch. Unless you authorize me to plead your case. So this person speaking to us in the second person already has tipped his hand that he is a lawyer and he's going to plead our case. Or at least he used to be a lawyer. Or maybe now he's something that lawyers graduate to. Maybe he's even a judge. He will not guess that you want gin. There. I dare hope he understood me. That nod must mean that he yields to my arguments. Yields to my arguments is a legal term. He is taking steps indeed. He is making haste with prudent deliberation, another legal courtroom term. You are lucky. He didn't grunt. When he refuses to serve someone, he merely grunts. So this bartender grunts in the last two sentences. He's being described in subhuman terms. No one insists. Being master of one's moods is the privilege of the larger animals. So now he grunted two times and now he's a larger animal. And in the very beginning of the book, he was an ape. Now I shall withdraw, Monsieur. Happy to have been of help to you. Thank you. I'd accept if I were sure of not being a nuisance. You are too kind. Then I shall bring my glass over beside yours. So that first paragraph is written in the second person, and now you're involved in the story. You're with this lawyer type at a bar in Amsterdam, and he's gotten the gin for us, and you could not have gotten the bartender's attention yourself, and he did it for you, so now you have invited him to sit down for a drink. You are right. His silence, his being the bartender still, is deafening. It's the silence of the primeval forest. So he's an ape, he grunts, he's an animal, and he's primeval. At times I am amazed by his obstinacy in snubbing civilized languages. His business consists in entertaining sailors of all nationalities in this Amsterdam bar, which for that matter he named, no one knows why, Mexico City. So a prominent symbol in the fall. Obviously, you can't fall unless you're high, and the greater the height, the further the fall. And so Mexico City, it just happens to be a city that, I don't know, is maybe 8,000 feet in the air elevation. And he describes it in terms of hell. So there's some irony, some symbolism that Mexico City is someplace high up, but it's actually low down. That doesn't mean a lot now, but as you read the book, that will play quite a big deal, that of being up high or being down low as a symbol of being righteous or being guilty, of being judged or being accused. With such duties, wouldn't you think that there might be some fear that his ignorance would be awkward? Fancy the Cro-Magnon man lodged in the Tower of Babel. He would certainly feel out of his element. So Amsterdam, port city, the end of Europe on one tip, could be described as the Tower of Babel. Everything shaken up, people from every tongue, tribe, and nation there gathered in Amsterdam to come and to go and to buy and to trade and to sell. And there you have the bartender, the ape, the primeval grunter, and he is there at this Tower of Babel. And he says he's going to feel out of his element. Yet this one is not aware of his exile. Exile, a biblical term. He goes his own sweet way and nothing touches him. So this brute is so ignorant that he doesn't even know that he's not at home here, that he's exiled from modern, the educated and the European who come to his bar. One of the rare sentences I have ever heard from his mouth proclaimed that you could take it or leave it. So we've heard twice that he's a groaner, and now he says things like, take it or leave it. What did one have to take or leave? Doubtless our friend himself. I confess I am drawn by such creatures who are all of a piece. Anyone who has considerably meditated on man by profession or vocation is led to feel nostalgia for the primates. They at least don't have any ulterior motives. So whether you're a judge, a lawyer, whether you're in court as the accuser or the accused, the thing that needs to be done is figure out what were the motives. And he says what's refreshing about apes, primeval Cro-Magnon type bartenders in Amsterdam is that they don't have that. They just simply are who they present themselves to be in a world of post-World War II Europe where nothing could be further from the norm, that people are double. And here, this bartender, one thing refreshing about him is that he is single. Our host, to tell the truth, has some, although he harbors them deep within him. As a result of not understanding what is said in his presence, he has adopted a distrustful disposition. So on second thought, maybe he does have some double. Maybe he's not simple. Maybe even no one has been completely simple. Maybe everyone is guilty of being a double, of having ulterior motives. But this man's at least are just deep within him. And so, because he's not smart enough, he's not sophisticated enough to be double in the way that you are and Jean-Baptiste is, he's adopted a distrustful disposition. Whence that look of touchy dignity, as if he least suspected that all is not perfect among men. That disposition makes it less easy to discuss anything with him that does not concern his business. Notice, for instance, on the black wall above his head, that empty rectangle marking the place where a picture had been taken down. Indeed, there was a picture there, and a particular interesting one, a real masterpiece. Dog-ear that, underlined that, there's no Chekhov's gun there, that will pay off later, that there's a rectangle where a piece of art used to be behind the bar at this bar. Well, I was present when the master of the house received it and when he gave it up. So he's at the bar a lot. He was there when the piece of art went up and when the piece of art went down. In both cases, he did so with the same distrust. After weeks of rumination, in that regard, you must admit that society has somewhat spoiled the frank simplicity of his nature. So both the putting up of a great piece of art and the taking down of a great piece of art were both met with distrust by this Cro-Magnon ape-like bartender. Mind you, I'm not judging him after he's just for 3 pages judged him. Mind you, I'm not his judge. I consider his distrust justified and should be inclined to share it. As you see, my communicative nature were not opposed to this. I am talkative, alas, and make friends easily, although I know how to keep my distance. I seize any and every opportunity. When I used to live in France, were I to meet an intelligent man, I immediately sought his company. If that be foolish, I see you smile at that use of the subjunctive. And so the subjunctive is when you say perhaps or when you wish. And so I think Camus is saying that Jean-Baptiste here, the person talking to you, is a highly educated person in that he uses the subjunctive. But you also are an educated person because you smile, you grin when he uses the perhaps, the I wish type of language. And so he's talking about how he can be a friend, but he can also not be a friend. And he understands that he gets excited when he meets an educated person to be friends with. I confess my weakness for that mood and for fine speech in general. A weakness that I criticize in myself, believe me. I am well aware that an addiction to silk underwear does not necessarily imply that one's feet are dirty. I guess that metaphor means that you can, by speaking well, you can hide your flaws and faults. Nonetheless, style, like sheer silk, too often hides eczema. So there's substance and there's style, and if a person has the riz, then they can hide their lack of simplicity, their lack of truthfulness, their lack of moral goodness. My consolation is to tell myself that, after all, those who murder the language are not pure either. Why, yes, let's have another gin. Are you staying long in Amsterdam? A beautiful city, isn't it? Fascinating. Remember, Amsterdam is a below sea level place, so it's low. There's an adjective I haven't heard in some time. Fascinating. Not since leaving Paris, in fact, years ago. So we know our person talking to us, who's going to be talking to us for this entire book, we know he is Parisian. But the heart has its own memory, and I have forgotten nothing of our beautiful capital, nor of its quays. Paris is a real trompe-l'oeil, a magnificent stage setting inhabited by 4 million silhouettes. Nearly 5 million at the last census? Why, they must have multiplied. And that wouldn't surprise me. It always seemed to me that our fellow citizens had two passions, ideas and fornication. Without rhyme or reason, so to speak. Still, let us take care not to condemn them, again, a legal sentence. They are not the only ones, for all Europe is in the same boat. And so, in a cheeky, tongue-in-cheek kind of way, in a classic Albert Camus, people in Europe post-World War II are known for two things. They're philosophizing, they're reading the papers, and then secondly, their fornication. But don't judge them for that. I sometimes think of what future historians will say of us. A single sentence will suffice for modern man. He fornicated and read the papers. After that vigorous definition, the subject will be, if I may say so, exhausted. So in a cheeky way, all there is to Europeans after the Second World War is fornication and ideas. But not the Dutch. They are much less modern. They have time. Just look at them. What do? Well, these gentlemen over here live off the labors of those ladies over there. All of them, moreover, both male and female, are very middle-class creatures who have come here, as usual, out of mythomania or stupidity. Though too much or too little imagination, through too much or too little imagination, in short. From time to time, these gentlemen indulge in a little knife or revolver play, but don't get the idea that they're keen on it. Their role calls for it, that's all. And they are dying of fright as they shoot it out. Nevertheless, I find them, again, the Dutch, more moral than the others. Those who kill in the bosom of the family by attrition. Haven't you noticed that our society is organized for this kind of liquidation? And so he likes the Dutch's simplicity. They are not double like the more educated parts of Europe. In Amsterdam, there's a simplicity, and they might have prostitutes, they might have violence, but there's an honesty and a simplicity and a realness about their violence or their character flaws. You have heard, of course, of these tiny fish in the rivers of Brazil that attack the unwary swimmer by thousands and with swift little nibbles clean him up in a few minutes, leaving only an immaculate skeleton. Well, that's what their organization is. Do you want a good, clean life like everybody else? You say yes, of course. How can one say no? Okay, you'll be cleaned up. Here's a job, a family, and organized leisure activities, and the little teeth attack the flesh right down to the bone. So an extended metaphor there for the Dutch life. Well, in one sense, they might be better than a sophisticated European, but in another sense, the expectations of maybe religion and family and vocation, those like little piranhas keep taking bites of your flesh until the whole you, your whole identity, your whole self is stripped away and you're left a skeleton because each piranha, job piranha, religion piranha, wife piranha, child piranha, strips away until you're left as just a skeleton. But I am unjust. Again, another legal term. I am unjust. I shouldn't say their organization. It is ours after all. So he's putting some guilt on himself. It's a question of which will clean up the other. Here's our gin at last. To your prosperity. Yes, the ape opened his mouth to call me doctor. The bartender is still an ape. In these countries, everyone is a doctor or a professor. They like showing respect out of kindness, out of modesty. Among them, at least, spitefulness is not a national institution. Besides, I'm not a doctor. If you want to know, I was a lawyer before coming here. Now, I am a judge penitent. So what's a judge penitent? Well, you got to read the entire book to figure out at least what he means by a judge penitent. But allow me to introduce myself. Jean-Baptiste Clements at your service. John the Baptist, more than anything else in the Christian Gospels, is the one who calls people to repent. So Jean-Baptiste brings to mind John Baptist, who wanted to prepare the way for the Messiah by making mountains low, by making valleys high, by making curvy, unpaved roads into straight paved roads to prepare the way of the Lord. And the way that he made those roads straight and flat was to warn people to repent. And so now Jean-Baptiste was a lawyer, and he is the one who calls people to repent. But he's Clemence, and Clemence is, kind and gentle and mild and gracious. So he's a mild John the Baptist, maybe. Pleased to know you. You are in business, no doubt? In a way. Excellent reply. Judicious, too. In a way, again, back to that subjunctive type of talk, that bourgeoisie type of talk, and the legal term, judicious, too. In all things, we are merely in a way. Now, allow me to play the detective. So now Jean-Baptiste Clemence is talking to you and trying to figure out who you are. You are my age, in a way, with the sophisticated eye of a man in his 40s who has seen everything, in a way. You are well dressed, in a way. That is, as people are in our country, and your hands are smooth, hence a bourgeois in a way, but a cultured bourgeois. Smiling at the use of the subjunctive, in fact, proves your culture twice over, because number one, you recognize it to begin with, and then because you feel superior to it. So this book is all about guilt and innocence, high and low, heaven and hell, creation and fall. And so he says that you're bourgeois because you recognize the subjunctive. But another aspect of being bourgeois is that recognizing educated ways of speaking makes you feel above, makes you feel superior to others. Lastly, I amuse you. And be it said without vanity, this implies in you a certain open-mindedness. Consequently, you are in a way, but no matter. Professions interest me less than sex. So sex, S-E-C-T-S. So he really actually doesn't care what you do for a living, because all professional people have the same 3 or 4 jobs and they're just not that interesting. He's seen it all, and that's about as interesting as someone telling you which denomination they belong to. And so he's not interested in that. Allow me to ask you 2 questions, and don't answer if you consider them indiscreet. Another courtroom judicial illusion about answering questions or refusing to answer questions. Here's the question. Do you have any possessions? Some? Good. Have you shared with the poor? The Christian duty to give to the poor. Have you done that? No? Then you are what I call a Sadducee. So there's 2 groups of people that oppose the ministry of Jesus Christ. The Pharisees did it from the right wing. They wanted to be more conservative, more holy than Jesus. And the Sadducees did it from the left wing. They didn't believe in a literal resurrection. They didn't apply the morality of Old Testament law in the way that either Jesus or the Pharisees did. And so if you refuse to give your possessions to the poor, that does not make you a Pharisee or a Christ. That makes you a Sadducee. If you are not familiar with the scriptures, I admit that this won't help you, but it does help you, so you know the scriptures. Decidedly, you interest me. So he's bourgeois, and he also knows the scriptures. As for me, well, judge, again, courtroom language, for yourself. By my stature, my shoulders, and this face, that I have often been told was shy, I rather look like a rugby player, don't I? So this is awkward. Now Jean-Baptiste Clemence is getting you to comment on how athletically built and handsome he is. But if I am judged, again, a courtroom term, by my conversation, I have to be granted a little subtlety. So he's just talked about how silk underwear hides the dirt, and how style can hide a lack of substance. And he's saying that he might have it all, but what he might not have is humility or subtlety. The camel that provided the hair for my overcoat was probably mangy, yet my nails are manicured. I too am sophisticated, and yet I confide in you without caution on the sole basis of your looks. Finally, despite my good manners and my fine speech, I frequent sailors' bars in the Zijik. Come on, give up. My profession is double. That's a key phrase, a key half of a sentence here at the beginning of chapter 1. My profession is double. There's a certain kind of truth, and then there's another layer underneath it. There's a certain motivation, and then there's an ulterior motivation. And there's a lot of doublespeak in being a lawyer, and how much more doublespeak in being a former lawyer. That's all. Like the human being, I have already told you, I am a judge penitent. Again, he said it now twice, and we're going to have to read the entire novel to fully understand what a judge penitent, because that's a paradox, because a judge is a judge and a penitent is one who is sorry, who goes to a penitentiary. And so we'll have to figure out how that oxymoronic, that ironic, that paradoxical term could be. How could Jean-Baptiste Clemens be a judge penitent? Only one thing is simple in my case. I possess nothing. So therefore he can't be a Sadducee because he has nothing to give to the poor. Yes, I was rich. No, I shared nothing with the poor. What does that prove? That I too was a Sadducee. Oh, do you hear the foghorns in the harbor? There'll be fog tonight on the Zuider Zee. There's fog. That's got to be a some sort of symbol. Got to watch out for birds and fog as well in this letter, in this book. You are leaving already? Forgive me for having perhaps detained you. Again, forgive. Another courtroom language. No, I beg you. I won't let you pay. I am at home at Mexico City. So it's a hellish type of bar, but again, Mexico City is a high type of place, and that's his home. And have been particularly pleased to receive you here. I shall certainly be here tomorrow. So he was there when the art was put up. He was there when the art was taken down. He will be there tomorrow. He's there today. So he really does make his home at the bar in Mexico City. As I am every evening, and I shall be pleased to accept your invitation. Your way back? Well, but if you don't have any objection, the easiest thing would be for me to accompany you as far as the harbor. So he's going to walk us back to our hotel because it seems like it's on the way to his apartment. Thence, by going around the Jewish quarter, you'll find those fine avenues with their parade of streetcars full of flowers and thundering sounds. Your hotel is on one of them, the Damrak. You first, please. I live in the Jewish quarter, or what was so called until our Hitlerian brother made room. Our Hitlerian brother made room. What a cleanup. 75,000 Jews deported or assassinated. That's real vacuum cleaning. I admire that diligence, that methodical patience. When one has no character, one has to apply a method. So this is a book all about guilt or innocence. He's a former lawyer. He wants to be acquitted. He wants to be a judge, penitent. All these themes will come up later in the book. And where of all the places, all the gin joints in the world, where does he live? He lives on the very site of one of the greatest atrocities in human history. If you had a troubled conscience, maybe trying to find the worst people ever to hang out with might be your move. What is Jean-Baptiste Clemens doing living in a place that was formerly filled with so much evil? And how can that kind of evil be justified? Well, if there's no right or wrong, no transcendent truth, no God, no immortality, if we're living in a post-Christian Europe, then what do you have? He says a method, a real vacuum cleaning. So in the absence of God and truth and morality, then what you need is a strong arm and a good strategy, and that's exactly what Hitler was able to do here in Amsterdam. Here it did wonders incontrovertibly, and I am living on the site of one of the greatest crimes in history. Perhaps that's what helps me to understand the ape and his distrust. He's still not done talking about the Cro-Magnon, grunting, illiterate, almost bartender. Thus I can struggle against my natural inclinations, carrying me toward fraternizing. When I see a new face, something in me sounds the alarm. Slow, danger. Even when the attraction is strongest, I am on my guard. So to be an optimist when you meet a new person or meet a pessimist when you meet a new person, Jean-Baptiste wants to always be on guard and not be played the fool and assume the worst of human nature rather than the best of human nature. Do you know that in my little village, during a punitive operation, a German officer courteously asked an old woman to please choose which of her two sons would be shot as a hostage? Choose. Can you imagine that? That one? No, this one, and see him go? So this is existentialist, absurdist philosophy, that we have a sense of throneness, that there's no inherent transcendent truth, there's no plan, there's no purpose other than the one that we create. Well, how do you create meaning in an absurd existential universe? Well, it's this burden of choice. And what if this burden of choice requires you, because of the Hitlerian evil, What if it requires you to choose? Can you imagine having to choose this one and not that one? Let's not dwell on it, but believe me, Monsieur, any surprise is possible. I knew a pure heart who rejected distrust. He was a pacifist and libertarian and loved all humanity and the animals with an equal love, an exceptional soul. That's certain. Well, during the last wars of religion in Europe, he retired to the country. He had written on his threshold, "Wherever you come from, come in and be welcomed." Who do you think answered that noble invitation? The militia, who made themselves at home and disemboweled him. This is almost a verbatim anecdote from Voltaire's Candide, and it's a snarky, sarcastic look at people who are too optimistic. People who are optimists are people who have the mania of saying all is well when one is in hell. People who are pacifist and kind and welcoming, those are the very people who get disemboweled. So if you attribute to people too much innocence as a judge, then you are liable to be disemboweled. And then Jean-Baptiste Clement, now he realizes he's using words like disemboweled in company, and so he's going to apologize to a woman. "Oh, pardon, madame." But she didn't understand a word of it anyway. Remember, we're speaking French and we're in Amsterdam, so maybe not a surprise that she didn't understand whatever French for disemboweled is. All these people, out so late despite this rain which hasn't let up for days. Remember, it's foggy and there's rain. Now, fortunately, there is Jinn, the sole glimmer of light in this darkness. So in an existential world, the only glimmer is maybe an escape sometime. And what provides you an escape? Jinn, the sole glimmer of light in the darkness. Do you feel the golden copper-colored light it kindles in you? I like walking through the city of an evening in the warmth of Jinn. I walk for nights on end. I dream or talk to myself interminably. So, half sober, he walks through the street. That will be important later. Yes, like this evening, and I fear making your head swim somewhat. Thank you. You are most courteous, but it's the overflow. As soon as I open my mouth, sentences start to flow. Besides, this country inspires me. I like these people swarming on the sidewalks, wedged into a little space of houses and canals, hemmed in by fogs, cold lands, and the sea steaming like a wet wash. I like them, for they are double. They are here and elsewhere. So the Dutch people are... they're honest, they're simple, they're walking around, they're fully present in their blue-collar-like task, but they're double in the same way that Europeans are, in that they're dreamers. Their heads are in the clouds, and they have a transcendent or mythical or otherworldly hope, though they live embodied in this world. They're dreamers, yes indeed. From hearing their heavy tread on the damp pavement, from seeing them move heavily between their shops, full of gilded herrings and jewels the color of dead leaves, you probably think they are here this evening. You are like everybody else. You take these good people for a tribe of syndics and merchants, counting their gold crowns with their chances of eternal life, whose only lyricism consists in occasionally, without doffing their broad-brimmed hats, taking anatomy lessons. You are wrong. They walk along with us, to be sure, and yet see where their heads are? In that fog. So it's been raining and now it's foggy, and there's a lack of clarity with these dreamers, and their heads are in the clouds, though they're here, but they're distracted by another world. In that fog, compounded of neon, gin, and mint emanating from the shop signs above them. So it's a double fog. It's literally foggy, but the gin is causing a fog. Holland is a dream, Monsieur, a dream of gold and smoke, smokier by day, more gilded by night, and night and day that dream is peopled with Lohengrens. So that's mysterious. I think he was a knight, and he was a mythical sailor, and I think maybe doves took his ship to look for, to explore, and he's saying, so the Dutch are mythical people like that. They have dreams like that with their swans. Dreamily riding their black bicycles with high handlebars, funeral swans constantly drifting throughout the whole land, around the seas, along the canal. So he's talked about fog, he's talked about rain, he's talked about the fog that is the gin color, and now swans. So a lot of sky references their heads In the coppered-colored clouds, they dream. They cycle in circles. They pray. Somnambulist, they move around. They sleepwalk. In their sleep. They walk around in the fog's gilded incense. They have ceased to be here. So their whole existence is a sleepwalk. They have gone thousands of miles away toward Java, the distant isle. They pray to those grimacing gods of Indonesia. So it's a port town. So they're always going away. They're always crossing oceans to other gods and other lands and other peoples, with which they have decorated all their shop windows, and which at this moment are floating aimlessly above us before alighting. So that even the sky again, the up again, are shop windows with symbols of where their boats go. Like sumptuous monkeys on the signs and stepped roofs to remind the homesick colonials that Holland is not only the Europe of merchants, but also the sea that leads to Cipango and to those islands where men die mad and happy. But I'm letting myself go. I'm pleading a case, so he can't stop being a lawyer. Forgive me, habit, monsieur, vocation. Also the desire to make you fully understand the city and the heart of things, for we are at the heart of things here. Have you noticed that Amsterdam's concentric canals resemble the circles of hell? Dante's Inferno, the outside rings are the less heinous crimes, and then down you go to the very bottom with the traitors, with Brutus and Judas and the devil himself in ice. And so he's saying that Amsterdam, is it full of traitors? Who's it full of? Just sinners up here at the top? Or is it full of traitors there at the bottom? What level of hell are we in when we're in Amsterdam? The middle class hell, of course, peopled with bad dreams. When one comes from the outside, as one gradually goes through circles, life, and hence its crimes, becomes denser, darker. Here we are in the last circle. There's the answer to the question. We're in the last circle of hell where the traitors are. The circle of the... you know that, so you've recognized the subjunctive. You say educated bourgeois things, and you get an allusion to Dante's Inferno. That doesn't have to be explained to you. By heaven, and you know who the Sadducees are. By heaven, you become harder to classify. But you understand then why I can say that the center of things is here, although we stand at the tip of the continent. And so what does that mean? I think he means the center of hell is here, even though geographically we're at the very tip. A sensitive man grasps such oddities. In any case, the newspaper readers and the fornicators, they can go no further. So if you go from Paris up to Amsterdam, that's the last place you can go in Europe. So the Parisians have to stop right there. They come from the four corners of Europe and stop facing the inner sea on the drab strand. They listen to the foghorns, vainly try to make out the silhouettes of boats in the fog, then turn back over the canals and go home through the rain. Chilled to the bone, they come and ask in all languages for gin at Mexico City. There, I wait for them. So he's a judge penitent. He's John the Baptist, but he's Clement. And what does he do? He waits for all the Europeans to go and fro, come to and fro, and they see darkness, they see clouds, and so there's nowhere else for them to go but to escape into a hellish bar that ironically is an elevated bar and below water, like Amsterdam, below sea level, and Jean the Baptist Clements, he's sitting there and he's waiting for them. They come here and I wait for them. Till tomorrow then, monsieur, et cher compatriot, my dear compatriot. Now, you will easily find your way now. I'll leave you near this bridge. Why won't he cross the bridge with us? Why won't Jean-Baptiste Clements? Why does he stop at this bridge? I never cross a bridge at night. It's the result of a vow. Why would someone vow not to cross a bridge at night? Suppose, after all, that someone should jump in the water. One of two things. Either you do likewise to fish him out, and in cold weather you run a great risk, or you forsake him there, and suppressed dives sometimes leave one strangely aching. Could not be more important. This is foreshadowing, so he doesn't cross a bridge. Why? Because two bad things can happen. You have to jump in and save a person, or you don't jump in and save a person, and there is a downside to both of those things. Good night. What? Those ladies behind the windows, they're in a red light district. Dream, monsieur. Cheap dream. a trip to the Indies. So in a world with no inherent meaning or transcendence, where is a way that you might go to try to feel like something supernatural is happening to you? To get gin at the Mexico City bar and to go to the prostitution district. And that's just, in Jean-Baptiste Clemence's words, that's just a trip to the Indies. Those persons perfume themselves with spices. Remember, he said you covered up your dirty feet with your silk underwear, and now they're perfuming themselves with spices. You go in, they draw the curtains, and the navigation begins. The gods come down onto the naked bodies, and the islands are set adrift. Lost souls crowned with the tousled hair of palm trees in the wind. Try it. So, is it going to fill your soul? Is it going to be heaven? Is it going to be transcendent? Are you going to be happy you did it? No, 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 and no. But it can give you the taste, the double, the hint of satisfaction.